As many of us set out to live better, live healthier lives in this new year of 2024, we have noted that a good night's sleep is being called out as a top priority of women. Yet it's something so many women struggle with. So today we're kicking off the show with that quest to help you get a better night's sleep. With so many over-the-counter sleep aids and supplements available, picking what's best for you can be confusing. Pharmacist Phil Cowley gets this question all the time. He's the guy behind the popular Instagram and TikTok account, Phil's My Pharmacist, and we're so grateful to call him a good friend of our show as well. Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
I mean, you do get this question, I'm sure, constantly.
Yeah, and I think people have the misconception that you can take a pill and fix the problem. Like, you have to change all of your lifestyle. But what you need more than anything else is tools in the belt in order to get after it.
Yeah.
And then make those changes, turn off those screens earlier, do a little exercise, don't take the nap at 4 o'clock if you want to go to sleep that night. Those kind of things need to happen too. But this is a great way to start, and the best way to start is trying to figure out what you're doing wrong.
Yes. I know a lot of people develop sleep problems as they age. Why is that?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons. First of all, a lot of people have sleep apnea. So if you can't breathe at night, for some reason, if you can't breathe, you don't sleep. I haven't quite figured out what that is.
So 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Restless legs, huge problem. You also have a reduction in exercise, which makes it so you have issues just generally trying to generate the neurotransmitters you need. And then even more on all of that, your hormones start doing just skitty-wampus things on you. And that makes a huge mess for everybody, especially progesterone.
Yes, yes. I appreciate you calling out the need to find that core reason for you, whatever it is, to adjust the lifestyle as you should. We're not suggesting this as the end-all Band-Aid, but these are options that can help people get to that point.
Well, they're tools. You get started on them,
Yeah.
and then once you get that, you get everything in place. Sleep's this weird thing where if you don't start the cycle right, it just builds on itself over and over again. And it always compounds, and then you get nervous, and then we never sleep.
I used a pharmacy word. It
You
compounds.
You did great.
It compounds. All right, so over-the-counter aids. You say there's one easy way to identify a group of over-the-counter meds that basically are all the same.
So the funny thing is you go over there and you've got Tylenol PM, and you've got Advil PM, and you've got the NyQuil, and you've got the Z's. All of those have Benadryl in them. They're all diphenhydramine, every single one. And so what they are is they're an antihistamine, and histamine is one of those things that gets us up and running. So when you think about going to sleep, there's two things. It's trying to fall asleep and trying to stay asleep. Histamine is one of those things that keeps us awake. It's the thing that keeps that brain going. So if we block it, it helps temporarily. But it's only one part of it. It doesn't change some of the other things. It doesn't mean you'll get good sleep, but I can put you to sleep.
So if it says PM, that's going to get you to sleep. That's the same as Benadryl.
That's all Benadryl. It's 100%. They're all Benadryl. They just add a little something else to it.
Do you recommend those?
For temporary use for people that don't have prostate issues or don't have night sweats, or if you're only going to use it for a couple of days, it's fantastic. But long term,
yes,
you get accustomed to it. So there's a difference between dependency and addiction.
Unisom fits in this category.
Unisom.
Unisom, one of the only medications approved for pregnant women. Why is that?
Well, that's a long story because it was approved and then it was not approved and now it's back. And it's because we have so much data on it. So Unisom actually has doxalamine in it. And doxalamine works inside the brain, and there's a chemoreceptor in that brain that says you don't need to throw up. And it hits that one, and so that's the reason why they use it for women, is because that chemoreceptor tells you don't have to throw up. It's also the one that makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we'll give those poor pregnant women a little bit of Unisom, and they can't figure out why they're sleeping all day long, plus they're pregnant and tired anyway.
So it all cycles together.
It cycles together.
Addictive, though. They can build an addiction.
Well, it's more dependency. So addiction is craving it. Like, I've never met anybody who craves taking it.
Okay.
Dependency is your brain says, oh, I know what to do with that. I need more.
Good clarification.
Because it's the same way as everything else. So you can become dependent on it to where the brain's like, well, where is that? Because usually I have that, and now I've made extra histamine.
Right.
Because I knew that was coming, and now you're up even more because your brain says, oh yeah, you think you're going to stop me? And then it counteracts it.
So that's why you emphasize the short-term use.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using it consistently all the time, and not only that, but it can cause constipation and urinary issues. It causes yeast infections because of dryness. It can dry out your mouth. So long-term isn't great, but I do really like it short-term.
Okay.
I mean, I know of some parents that have used that short-term for, and it works really good for 1 or 2 days.
Okay.
So.
All right. If people don't want to go that route, they want to go more natural. You mentioned getting to the core of the issue first, and you touched on hormonal sleep disturbances.
Absolutely. So hormones are really interesting. As your estrogen drops, your brain starts to produce more FSH. And when it starts producing more FSH, it starts messing with your melatonin.
What's FSH?
So that's follicle stimulating hormone. It's the thing that makes you make eggs.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So
you for saying
it
so
produces,
plainly.
it makes the eggs bigger. This is what it does, because you already have them. And so when you run out of eggs, it says, well, where'd those go? I don't have estrogen, so it adds more FSH, and then that pushes back on the melatonin, and it makes this whole big mess. In fact, it's extremely complex, but it comes clear back from when there were animals that were goats and things like that, and they only want to breed certain times. So when the sun would come up, you'd produce more FSH. So it became a whole thing, and we just, throughout the years, each animal brain has those little parts in there. And so
Who knew?
So
who knew this story went way back to the goat years?
The goat years. And so now we have in our brain, when you hit menopause, the problem is that you don't have enough progesterone, you don't have enough estrogen, and the progesterone causes this night sweats. And when you have night sweats, usually you have a terrible time trying to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And it all has to do with the hypothalamus.
What's the solution to that, Phil?
So if you bring in DHEA in the morning, don't take it at night.
Okay.
It helps you produce more progesterone during the morning. And then at nighttime, if you go ahead and add a little bit of melatonin at night because you're producing less, you do a lot better than using huge doses of melatonin.
Okay, all right. An overactive brain, you mentioned, can also be to blame.
Yeah, you know what we love? We love caffeine. Don't
Yes,
we love
we do.
caffeine?
Yeah.
And so when
Guilty.
caffeine loves to keep norepinephrine around, and norepinephrine keeps us up. It's like the reason why we don't sleep all day long. But then we keep it around all day, and then on top of it, we take a lot of medications, like there's blood pressure medications, you got steroids, all sorts of stuff this way. Even nasal sprays can help keep you awake at night. So you've got to be really careful what you take and when you take it. My favorite right now is everybody's got colds, so they take Sudafed, and then they call me and say, why didn't I sleep? Well, you're never going to sleep on this stuff, so watch what you're taking, and that'll be a huge part of what's going on because you try to wake up so much. And the problem is you wake up and you're so sleepy because you didn't sleep well, and then we have this awful cycle.
Right.
It's better to do a little bit of exercise. Don't eat huge meals before you try to go to bed. And then on top of it, watch your sugar intake after about 4 o'clock. Sugar releases dopamine, and then the whole thing gets rolling down the hill.
Okay, all right, let's touch on kids quickly before we part and say goodbye. Kids who struggle to sleep, what do you recommend for their parents?
So the thing about melatonin right now is the first thing that you look at usually for kids. And the problem with melatonin is we've already talked, there's a hormonal component to it. And you have to say it that way because we don't really know the whole thing, but we know that high doses can actually slow puberty.
High doses of melatonin.
A high doses of melatonin can. So I usually recommend before you start on that, look at magnesium. The combination of magnesium and a couple of amino acids like L-theanine, those are the way that we produce what's called GABA. GABA puts us to sleep. So if you give them the building blocks of an amino acid and then add some magnesium, which helps process it, sometimes you'll just build that I can go to sleep chemical GABA. And then if you do use any melatonin on kids, which is okay, you want to make sure to try to keep it short term. Keep the doses lower, 1 milligram, half a milligram, 3 milligram. And the biggest thing is I have 4 boys that don't sleep, and my suggestion is this: you need to talk to your kids and see what's causing that sleep issue. Because if you're not talking to them and you're handing them a pill, that can create a situation where they think, if I'm going to sleep, I have to get a pill.
I need that before I can.
And instead, you need to talk to them and say, okay, why aren't we sleeping? When was the last time you drank a Monster? Things like that.
Yeah, those good conversations you got to have with those teenage boys regularly. Phil, thank you so much. You call the pharmacy the hub of health, and I love that. So people can come to you for questions virtually as well.
Absolutely, anytime. Just come check us out. We're always there.
Phil's My Pharmacist on Instagram. We'll link you over. And of course, as always, check with your pharmacist or your doctor before making any changes to your health routine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.